Hi, so in this video what I want to talk about is the order halls and followers in Legion, and indeed a couple of the bits of content that are a development from what existed in Warlords of Draenor and has been panned. Now the first thing to sort of note is there are some people who are not going to like order halls in Legion. And there are three main reasons for this. Each of these reasons could sort of be subdivided if you like. But I think there are three main reasons. One is because it's not what they want it to be. And this can apply to any content. Two, it's because they actually don't like the content. Or three, because an aversion reaction. Now, just to explain these points. So the first one, it's not what you want it to be. What a lot of people have asked for a great many years is for player housing. We have player housing at other MMOs and people really like it. It's a way of customizing. People like customizing in role-playing games. They like customizing their character. They like customizing aspects of their character. And the player home is like an extension of the character. Obviously, you can't dress up your character with a bird table on his head, okay? But what you can do is dress up your home. Lord of the Rings Online and Star Wars The Old Republic are two MMOs that I play that do have player housing, customizable player housing. I can certainly see the appeal. Okay, and when garrisons came along, this is, I think, what some people thought it would be, and it isn't. It isn't. And the garrisons themselves are nothing like player housing. It's a space away from other people, and there the similarity ends. There's no real customization other than where you place your buildings. And the same thing will apply in order. In fact, order halls is even further away from player housing because it's not even that space away from yourself. When I went into Alpha, first of all, I went to the order halls and I thought, oh, there's other paladins about here. And I thought to myself, well, surely they're going to phase this because we can't have like 30 people with Ashbringers running around this place, but it doesn't look like they are doing. And maybe they intend it that way. So it's as far removed from the playhouse as you can get. So those sort of people will still not, I think, like the order halls because there's a resentment that that's what it should be. The second reason is not liking the content. Now, I think at the moment, the majority of people are already forming opinions about the order halls based on garrisons because they see the order halls as being an extension of garrisons. Now, this one, then you have to look at what are the reasons for that. And for some reasons, you are still not going to like the order halls. For some reasons, I actually think you will, because they are nothing like garrisons, like literally nothing like garrisons. So think about the sort of things about garrisons people didn't like. First of all, when it comes to professions, and I like my professions, it was all too easy. You just went to your little hut, you put in your work orders for the day, and you buggered off. You might not even have to get the raw materials for those work orders. It's actually now really cheap. Just get them off the auction house. That's what I do. I don't go out. I don't even go into my own mine. I will go to the auction house, which is in my garrison, and I will just buy some true iron ore or something like that, whatever I need, and stick it on as a work order. And that's on the days when I can even be bothered to do that. I've got nothing particularly that I'm saving up for. Yeah. So if you don't like that aspect, that's gone. That's not. In fact, for professions, there's now a lot more involvement. I've done a little video on professions already, and I'll be doing more as more is implemented in the alpha and beta. So that's gone completely. So if that is what turned you off garrisons, it's gone. Secondly is followers and missions. One thing that people didn't like, I mean, a lot of people to begin with were quite positive. Not everyone. I will give people their due. Some people didn't like it, even concept. Okay, fine. But some people did. I did, and we loved it. And gathering up the followers as you level up and things like that. But then you put them on missions, and some of those missions, especially the lower level ones, are quite quick. It's like done in half an hour. So you're out questing, and you're told this thing's ready. Okay, you don't have to go back straight away, but you know you want to level this follower up as well. You know that this follower is not going to be getting you any of the real big shinies until they're like level 100 and properly geared. So you want to keep rolling them on. So you keep going back to your garrison and putting them on another mission. You keep backwards and forwards. And when you get to level 100, a lot of the time you're just stuck in your garrison, sending them on their missions, waiting 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever. And then they come back off the mission. You immediately send them off another one because it's the most efficient way to do it. Again, that is gone. It's completely gone. We sort of know a little bit. I mean, if you compare the garrison missions with the shipyard missions, and now shipyards are people really didn't like that at all. But I think that's because they just changed things at the last minute. They didn't have much time to sort it out. And I'm going to pick up that theme later on as well. But it's a bit more like that, only more so. You're not going to be stuck in your order hall sending people on missions at all. Now, anything you might have read about how the missions exactly are going to work is total speculation, by the way, because they are not implemented in alpha. So all we can really go on is what is apparent and what Blizzard have said about how they're going to work. Now, we do know that some of the things they say about how things are going to work in BlizzCon don't necessarily make it to live. But one thing we can say straight away is you are not collecting lots of followers. And if you're not collecting lots of followers, that means you can't be sending these people on lots of missions either. So if what you didn't like is constantly having to stay there and wait for missions to finish and send them back off again, that is gone. Because we don't have loads of followers. I've got level 108, I've got one follower. And you get that right at the start. And the missions as well. Now, this is where we go into like what Blizzard have sort of said, is it's not a case of send them off and they bring you back a load of gold or a load of gear or something like that, as happens now. It's supposed to be a case they bring you back something and then you go, oh, this is interesting. I'm going to explore this myself, and you go out into the world. It's a bit like a random drop, I think, that's a quest item. You click on it and it gives you a quest. I think it's that sort of thing. But that's, again, speculation. But the idea that you're going to have to be going, stay in your order hall, clicking, oh, send on mission, oh, this one's finished, send them on again, is gone. Is absolutely gone as well. The other thing about the garrison in terms of quality of life things is people felt trapped in the garrison because there was too much quality of life there, because you had like mailboxes there, and you had you could get an auction house there, you could get your bank set up there, all your profession stuff. Quite frankly, why would you need to leave? Again, all that is gone. The order hall has almost nothing. It has got a training dummy, and it has got a portal to Dalaran, and it's got your mission table. Well, it hasn't got the mission table implemented yet, but it will do. And at the moment, that's about it. You can also set, like, you can get followers to sort of accompany you while you're out in the world, a bit like the bodyguard thing. And you can set that up there as well if you want. Like, let's say you don't feel all that comfortable, or you don't feel all that strong out when you're doing your solo quest. Then you can send some NPCs to go along with you, but they're just supporting you. They're just like pets, really, for certain other classes. And that's about it as things stand. And that's really all there is to it. So you're really not going to be in the order hall at all. It's not even a rest zone. You actually, if you log out there, you're stuck waiting 20 minutes. I mean, you can exit game immediately, but you're stuck waiting 20 seconds because it's not a rest zone. You will not build up rest and experience. So you're certainly not going to be hanging around there while you're leveling. You're going to be in and gone. And you don't even have to go in every day. They've been very clear about that. If any little quests pop up, and they haven't yet, but I think that's for level 110 content. If you don't do it that day, it doesn't matter. It'll still be there a few days later. So you can decide either to come along and do like a daily quest and do that in a day, or you can leave it a few days and come back and grab the whole lot and do the whole lot in one go, or just do as many as you want. That is very much the intention. So you are at the main thing you're going to be using your order hall for in the early days is actually turning in your artifact power to skill up your artifact. There's nothing else really to do there. There's like nothing to do. Then there's the third reason, and that is aversion. And this is the more serious one. And I think most of the people who don't like order halls, once they've tried them out, and it will be this thing. And that is that Warlords of Draenor has turned so many people off that there is this aversion to anything that looks like the same feature. I mean, someone, because this has been going up on the forums on quite a lot, and someone made the very good point. I don't know whether they were making this up or it was true, but it gets the idea across that they bit into a pear when they were young, and there was a worm there, and that put them off, and now they can't eat pears, even though they know the chance of another worm being there is like slim. And in fact, it's zero if you look around the thing anyway. But he still won't eat pears because of that aversion. It's like the saying, once bitten, twice shy. The same thing can apply here, because people will just see it as this is what we've got as an extension of garrisons, and they didn't like garrisons. The same thing will apply with sort of Apexis daily type things. We still have like the mission objectives where you fill up a bar. Now, but again, you have to think about what was it that we didn't like about that. Is there anything wrong with that content? The answer was no. It's not really dissimilar to dailies that people had no real problem with before. The problem with Apexis dailies was twofold. One, it was all we could do. I mean, that's ultimately been the problem with Warlords of Draenor. It's not that any individual content has been bad. Maybe Ashran, but I'm not talking about PvP. It's not that any individual piece of content has been bad. It's because there hasn't been enough variety of things to do. It's like every day you've got an Apexis daily. Go to Tanan Jungle, do even more Apexis dailies, and that's it. And you think about what that gives you. Obviously, it gives you Apexis crystals. What were they for, really? I mean, I did this in the first day. You do your Apexis daily every day because you need to get Apexis crystals. What do we need them for? We needed them to give a few thousand to Khadgar to start off the legendary ring quest. For me personally, that was basically it. Maybe a piece of gear before you were getting better pieces of gear in challenge modes and then going into raiding. Of course, if you didn't go into raiding, maybe the gear you could get from Apexis crystals lasted a bit longer. But still, after a certain amount of time, Apexis were useless. They are now useless. We can buy the upgrade gear for baleful stuff to get it up to 695. If that is useful to you, okay, there's still some use there. But it's still very dull. It's not interesting. And saving up 20,000 of them for one of those it takes a while as well. That's you doing a lot of dailies. And again, it's the same content. You go to an area and you kill everything that moves and you click on anything that you can click. And then you go to another area and do the same thing. And the things that you kill look a bit different. And the things that you click on look a bit different. But it's still the same thing. You're still killing things and clicking on things. And that's not interesting when that's all you've got to do. If you chose to do that every now and then, people wouldn't have a problem. So again, the aversion thing is going to be a real big killer. But then we have to think to ourselves, so why have Blizzard done this? Wouldn't it have been better if they just come up with a completely different system? You could argue yes, but here we come into the reasons as to why Blizzard are doing it. Now, the main problem has been that they've done expansions. Warlords of Draenor and Legion are unlike previous expansions because they have developed them, they say, in parallel. They've had two teams, one working on each one. We know there are certain developers that have a foot in both camps, like Watcher, who, I think the lead developers are obviously working on both because they're overseeing the operations. But we're supposed to have had different people working on each expansion. So when Legion was started, Warlords of Draenor hadn't even come out. So they were further developing the features that were in Warlords of Draenor, assuming that they would be well received. Because, of course, why would they, for any reason, bring out features they don't think are going to be well received? They wouldn't. That's just madness. They thought garrisons were brilliant. So obviously it was going to have order halls. And by the time it became clear that garrisons and Apexis dailies and follower missions were really not liked, it's sort of too late. It's a bit like turning around a tanker. You can't do it very quickly. They could, of course, do what we've just discussed here, remove the features that people really didn't like. So, okay, people didn't like the easy access to professions. Get rid of those. People didn't like constantly spamming missions. Okay, get rid of those. So I think they have got rid of all the negative aspects of these things. But they are going to have an absolute shitstorm because this aversion factor is huge. And also the people that actually wanted player housing. So if you're in either of those groups, you're still not going to be happy because we're not getting player housing. And order halls, as I say, are nothing like player housing. And the other thing is, we are going to have order halls because, and I'm not going to say to you, but you don't need to use them. Well, of course you need to use them. You need to go in and use it to upgrade your artifact. And you need to go in, and you will have to do missions every now and then, of course. But it is not as much as before. So I do think if people can go in with an open mind and forget about Warlords of Draenor. I mean, it's like one of these things. Let's say we all went into a coma and lost the last 2 years of our war. It's not even 2 years, this expansion hasn't lasted yet. It's like literally over a year. And lost that part of our life. We completely forgot about Warlords of Draenor and went into Legion. we might actually be quite positive about a lot of the things. We actually might be quite positive. In fact, ironically, we might even start hankering after some of the things that we did have in Warlords of Draenor. But yeah, the absolute reason why we have these things is it's because they were already being developed before Warlords of Draenor came out. And when Warlords of Draenor came out, again, it was a little while before I mean, some people were always against them, but it was a little while before everyone was against them. By which time, all they can do is change aspects. They can't completely start the expansion again. I mean, you look at the situation now. We had our last bit of content for Warlords of Draenor when? A couple of months ago? And when I say new content, I mean that was just literally an extra set of time walking dungeons. So, and the Grove Mount from Archimond, who had been in the game already for months. And it's already looking like we're not going to get Legion before July. And even that might be optimistic. It's very difficult to say. So they certainly couldn't scrap core parts of Legion and start again, because then we'd have like 2 years without content. And no one's going to put up with that. No one. So that is the reason why, I think, this idea of developing expansions in parallel very much works against them. But the reason they're trying to do it, of course, is money, moolah, because they want to be able to bring expansions out much more quickly. They're not succeeding, by the way. They're absolutely not succeeding, because Warlords of Draenor may well be out for a good 20 months, possibly. I'm not saying definitely. If we're lucky, I mean, it could be over 20 months. Well, TBC, I mean, in Europe, vanilla, but not in America, because it came out in America quite a bit earlier. And TBC everywhere was, and I think Wrath as well, but I'm not sure about Wrath, was out for about 22 months. And there we had 4 tiers of content, and we had regular updated content throughout the expansion as well. Now we're not getting, so we're getting basically a year's worth of content, and then a year's bog all, and then and that's it. So it's not actually working, and it means we get stuck with these features that people actually haven't liked, and we'd much rather you did it again. And in actual fact, if they'd have spent a proper amount of time on Warlords of Draenor, it could be argued that the content that we all don't like, we might have liked it, because I go back to my earlier point, the reason we don't like it is because that's all there was to do. There wasn't a variety. Whether the same is going to be true in Legion, I don't know. At the moment, it's looking encouraging. I have to say, being in alpha, it looks encouraging, but we haven't had access to the endgame content. So all we can judge it on is what Blizzard have said there's going to be, and what seems apparent from what we've seen. But we've not seen very much. We've got like 3 zones that are working now, and a few dungeons. Not even all the classes. So yeah. So that's it on features of Warlords of Draenor that you really didn't like and you hope won't come back. I'm just going to put it out there. They will come back, but hopefully in such an altered form that they've removed all the things we didn't like about them. So try and go with an open mind is what I would say. But when you develop 2 expansions in parallel with each other, they're going to develop things that might not have been liked in the previous expansion, and it's too late to do anything about it, and that's just the nature of the thing. So anyway, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, particularly comment whether you liked it or not, so that you can sort of enter into the discussion, and also anything else you want to comment about. All feedback gratefully received, and until next time, I'll see you later.